During his campaign, President Trump talked a big game about standing up for workers and creating good, high-paying jobs. But so far, the Republicans haven't voted on a single piece of legislation to create jobs, to grow our economy, or to increase wages for middle-class families. Not one single piece. No votes to create jobs, grow the economy, or increase wages for middle-class families. But they have been voting. 2 weeks ago, Senate Republicans voted along party lines, 49-48, to make it easier for companies that get big-time taxpayer-funded government contracts to steal wages from their employees. They also made it easier for those companies to injure their workers without admitting liability. And today, we're voting to make it easier for employers in the most dangerous industries to hide the most serious injuries and illnesses their workers suffer on the job. This isn't some burdensome new regulation. Large employers in the most dangerous industries have been required to record serious illnesses and injuries that their employees suffer on the job since 1972, a few years after the Occupational Health and Safety Act was first passed in 1970. The rule Republicans are trying to overturn today simply clarifies employers' obligation to maintain accurate, up-to-date records on workplace illnesses and injuries for 5 years. The Occupational Health and Safety Administration, or OSHA as most of us call it, at the Labor Department has been enforcing this requirement in every administration since 1972, Democrat and Republican. OSHA uses these data to determine how best to prioritize workplace inspections. Since OSHA resources are so scarce, they have only enough money to inspect each workforce once every 140 years. So they got to pick and choose where to focus. These data make sure that they are targeting their inspections at industries and in occupations that are at the highest risk of injury. The department also uses these reports to publish yearly statistics on the workplace hazards that kill 4,800 people and injure another 3 million people, American workers hurt and killed every year. Data show that employers already vastly underreport workplace injuries and illnesses. And without this rule, underreporting will skyrocket. And it will get harder for OSHA to hold employers accountable when they cut corners and endanger worker safety. Today's vote is great news for the Republicans who will rake in campaign contributions from their buddies at the Chamber of Commerce. It is great news for giant corporations that are lobbying hard against this rule. But it is not great news for hard-working Americans, the people who did not send us to Washington to work for companies that plump up their profits by skirting safety regulations. And the problem? This is just the beginning. Last week, President Trump proposed cutting the Department of Labor's budget by more than 20%. These cuts will take cops off the beat and send a clear signal to employers that they can cut corners on safety with impunity. President Trump also proposed eliminating a 1970s program at OSHA that gives grants to nonprofits and community organizations that provide free training for workers on how to identify and prevent job hazards that could injure or kill them. These programs work, and now President Trump wants to cut them. That would mean the end of successful worker training programs like the Brazilian Worker Centers program in Allston, Massachusetts, that provides residential construction workers with life-saving fall protection training. It also would cut funding for a Massachusetts Coalition on Occupational Health and Safety program in Dorchester that gives teens working in the retail sector training on how to prevent workplace violence, including sexual assault. And just please note on this how important this is. 200,000 young workers are the victims of workplace sexual assault every single year. This is a training program that was so successful that since it has been implemented, it has been replicated now nationwide. And yet the Trump administration wants to defund it. And just yesterday, the Trump administration finalized a 60-day delay of a rule to protect 60,000 workers who are exposed to a lethal cancer-causing beryllium at work, and this regulation saves about 100 lives every single year. Because the beryllium standards haven't been updated in 40 years, tens of thousands of workers are putting their lives at risk every single day. Americans who are exposed to beryllium on the job shouldn't have to wait another 60 days before they can get some protection so their jobs won't cause them lung cancer. The pattern that is emerging is pretty clear. Republicans have no plans to improve the lives of American workers. Quite the opposite. Republicans are increasing the odds that workers will be injured or even killed. When I came to the Senate floor 2 weeks ago to speak out against the repeal of the Fair Pay and Safe Workplaces Act, I said that the debate on this vote was about who Congress works for. Today's debate is no different. The Republicans are working for giant employers who don't want to follow the basic rules to keep their employees safe. This is shameful. This Congress should be working for the Americans who work for a living and just want to be able to do that without putting their lives at risk.